This is episode number 77 with Joshua Ponton, founder of Renegade Bootcamps. Hello everyone, I'm Julian Placino, and welcome to the Pathways to Success podcast, where I interview experts on leadership, personal development, business, health and fitness, and many other topics to help you find your unique pathway to success. Having a deep recruiting background, I leverage my ability to attract top performers and conduct in-depth interviews to uncover the secrets to success from a highly diverse group of experts, then share these lessons to help you find your unique pathway to success. Thanks for tuning in, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you soon on the Pathways to Success. This episode is brought to you by Focusrite. Focusrite is a global music and audio products group that makes audio interfaces for recording musicians and podcasters in my case. So I personally have been a Focusrite customer since the inception of this podcast. And to this day, I still produce the podcast using the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2. So whenever I invest into any kind of technology, I look for three things. Number one, I look for quality. I want to make sure whatever it is that I invest into creates that desired outcome with great quality. Number two, I look for ease of use. Now, although I am technically a millennial, I'm horrible with technology. So whatever it is that I invest into, I want to make sure it's easy to use. Lastly, because of that previous issue, I want to make sure they have great customer service in case I have any issues and support questions. And having been a Focusrite customer now for over a year, I can absolutely say they check all three boxes. So, for all of you musicians or my fellow podcasters out there, for all of your audio interface and preamp needs, make sure to check out Focusrite at focusrite.com. That's FOCUSRITE.com. What's happening, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Pathways to Success podcast. And this week I'm featuring Joshua Ponton, and Josh is the founder of Renegade Bootcamps. And the reason why I think Josh is such an interesting guy is, yes, he's in tremendous shape. He's an absolute physical specimen, but he's a great business, personal development, and spiritual guy. And in his gym, all these three things are coming into play and combining itself into something really unique here. And on this episode, we talk about how he's been able to create long-lasting change in a lot of his clients. A lot of it has to do with the mental game, like how to conquer limiting beliefs, the keys to making permanent change, how to create mental change to create physical exterior change, how to avoid self-sabotage. We also talk a lot about his business philosophies, and quite frankly, he's had an incredible entrepreneurial journey. He went from a very rebellious youth to a very successful fitness entrepreneur, and it's just a fascinating story with so many lessons he's able to teach through his life experience. So this is a tremendous episode. Make sure to share this out with everyone you know. So tune in, take notes, and on to the interview. Welcome back to another episode of the Pathways to Success podcast. On the show today, I've got Josh Ponton.
Yes, sir.
And Josh is a fitness entrepreneur and the founder of Renegade Bootcamps. Renegade was created for people who have had trouble losing weight in the past and have been failed by countless gyms and weight loss programs. In addition to workout classes, Renegade has a proven method of creating results through accountability and progress evaluation. So for anyone who's ever felt stuck in any area of exercise, nutrition, or recovery, Renegade can be the solution for you. And not only does Josh have an amazing gym, when I first spoke with him, I discovered that he was a great business guy, a great personal development guy, and he has a strong spiritual mission to the work that he's bringing into the world. And I wanted to learn more about his origin story and unpack his keys to success. And that is why he's on the podcast. So Josh, welcome to the show, man.
Welcome. How do I get a voice like that? First time you introduced yourself, or I think it was Sam introduced us. I went on and looked at your stuff. I was like, man, that voice.
You know what? What's crazy is I've actually heard that for a long time. Well, ever since my voice changed in puberty, and I just never did anything with it. So it's like this whole process of discovery of how do I use myself uniquely to help other people. And I was like, let's have conversations that help people's lives. You know what I'm saying?
So I just did puberty wrong. That's
There you go.
It didn't go out right for me.
Oh, man. Well, Josh, I know a lot of your tribe is listening. Obviously, you have a very successful gym, and I am curious to know how you have become this person that you are today. And I know it wasn't an easy start because you were constantly being told no, and you can't do this and that. So start us from the beginning, man.
Yeah. So ever since I was a child, I always got in trouble. always. And I think it's like having this chip on my shoulder that maybe I put there. But I always saw the no in things. Like I always saw why I couldn't do this growing up. A little bit of that when I was younger, I was always kind of under the shadow of my older brother, who was a great athlete. And I don't know, if if you go out and play catch with me soon, you'll understand that I have zero hand-eye coordination.
Really?
Yeah. So I actually found out when what was it, Marine OCS school, I actually found out I had no depth perception. So that was pretty cool.
That's a real disability?
Yeah, that's a real disability. So,
oh my gosh.
So that explained everything. But anyway, so growing up, I was kind of under that shadow of it was a small, I'm from West Side Chicago, so not a good environment there. My parents sacrificed. They made it work to where we could move up into it was like the small cornfield town. And so I was probably maybe one of like 10 African-American guys there. And so everyone looked at my brother and I, and they sports, right? Everyone's like, you're supposed to be good at sports, supposed to be good at this. And so my brother was great at that. I was kind of under the shadow there. And so I just remember just all the things that, I couldn't do, or all the things I was told no to growing up. And so I don't know where that kind of came from, why that was, in my background, or like family beliefs, or why that was the only thing I saw. So growing up, I always tried to rebel against that. And then as a child, you rebel against the wrong no's and you start getting into trouble. And so I always, I grew up just in trouble. I remember first time getting arrested, I was like 14 or something like that. Oh, wow,
so you got in trouble with the law and stuff.
So a lot of different things, but then I started realizing, how could I use my strengths for good things? And so the things I was getting in trouble for like, okay, hey, let's get a group of people to go to the party. Let's get a group of people to go and do this, right? It was always about getting people together.
Interesting.
Right? And then so I, even, after college, I say after college, I went off to college after high school for 2 years. I had moved here to Dallas before then, and then I moved back to Chicago for college. And I still kept kind of living that wild life of I'm going to rebel. So dropped out of that school about 2 years later, then moved back here to school. And you think I would have learned my lesson, but it was kind of the same thing still. How can I rebel and do what I want to do? And so I kept doing that, and then that led to me finding out about my daughter, my beautiful daughter Casey.
Yeah.
and finally, that's when it kind of clicked that I have this skill set, right? I can do more than just be a fitness trainer. I can do more than just.
So you were training throughout this time?
I was training throughout this time.
Got
it. So training throughout this time, and so I started realizing, hey, I can be more than what I am right now. And then I started realizing, why can't I? And why am I telling myself no? And then so that's when I started realizing that I can build something. And even now, we're in a one gym location right now, but even then I'm still thinking, no, I can build something more. Like I can build something great for my kids. I can build something great for the people around me. We don't have any, wealthy people in my family. So it's even that, like I can build wealth for my family, and I can use this whole, I don't want to be told no attitude to actually build those things. Right. So if I have a vision to do something, I don't have to take no ever, and I can use it towards good things versus bad things.
So is this I don't want to be told no thing a natural temperament, or do you think it's a result of kind of your upbringing of sort of being in your brother's shadow? Like, what's the rootedness, I guess, of that, you think?
I definitely believe in limiting beliefs, and I think growing up where I think you kind of grow up in these limiting beliefs, whether that's about money, religion, the church I went to, I think my parents used to be told that TV is the devil.
Ooh, okay.
So there were a lot of no's in that environment.
Yeah.
And then when you come from a family who's, my grandparents were amazing people. They went from Louisiana. My grandmother still picked cotton when she was little, and then my grandfather was able to get them. Get enough money together, move them to Chicago, start a life there, work at the post office. And so, you grow up with a family that just knows how to kind of the hustle to survive, right? And so, unfortunately, that brings together the mindset that people that are wealthy or people that are successful usually had it handed to them when they were little.
Yeah.
Or this is bad, but usually like the that white person was privileged. right?
Yeah.
You grow up with those limiting beliefs.
Sure.
And my limiting belief growing up was kind of around those aspects.
Interesting.
But then the biggest one was the verse in the Bible. It's like it's easier for to fit a camel through the eye of a needle than a rich man to get into heaven. That has been a huge limiting factor on my belief system, because if you think about it, when you truly believe those things, and especially when they're taught as you're little, you know, like we believe blue is blue, like yellow is yellow, right? We don't really think about it actively right now, but we just believe that, right? I believe this floor is going to hold me up right now, and I'm comfortable with that. So when I have these like limiting beliefs from like, you know, like it's harder for a camel to get through the eye of a needle than a rich man to get to heaven, that means I have to believe that rich people are bad,
right?
Because rich people can't go to heaven. So, you know, I may not be actively thinking that now as I'm older, but if I do become wealthy, that means that I'm agreeing that I'm a bad person, right? So you have to kind of figure out, and that's what has helped me. That's why I love podcasts and things like that, because it was actually on a podcast I learned that, which you have to kind of go back in your past, figure out where are those limiting beliefs, and then how do you just erase them? How do you get rid of those things so they don't impact your future paths?
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I think that's where I started rebelling against like all the no's. I went to figure out like.
So it was actually manifesting through trying to grow yourself, like,
exactly.
like refusing that there is. Okay, so that's a positive.
It's a positive.
I think
it became a positive. I think you can make it either way, right? You can.
I thought it was like rebelling, like to get in trouble, just to like stick it to your parents or something like that. But it was more about, you can't tell me, you can't limit me because I know I'm bigger than this. That's
exactly.
Oh, that's cool.
And so at first, at first it didn't start off like at first it was just getting in trouble. But then I started thinking about more. So it really is that thing of I just want to overcome every type of limiting factor on me, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I don't know if that's a great thing or if that's a good thing.
I think it's an amazing thing, because you're right, because they are the truth. And you know, one of the things that I'm trying to be more conscious of is, where am I getting my ideas? Yeah. And there are some things like whether it's, you know, from your parents or from society, a lot of times when people are telling you something that limits you, it's because they're trying to protect you. Like they're saying this because they want you to be safe.
Yes.
But, you know, people who think the way that you do are like, but I need to grow. I need to push past. I need to expand. So two questions I get from this, because I know personal development is a huge thing that you give your people, right?
Yes.
How do you identify limiting a belief, and then how do you push past it?
Okay, so how do you identify? First way to identify is just your conversation. So I always tell people, like, listen to your conversation. One of my favorite things, who was it? I can't remember. I think Grant Cardone preaches this a lot too. I love that man. A lot of people hate him, but I love him. But he talks about, you know, what if you were to like actually record your conversation and break it up into segments, what does your conversation sound like? For most people, for example, let's talk about like problem solving. Most people, their conversation will be like 95% on the problem, 5% on the solution. And then so when you can actually listen back on like what am I telling myself? Like what am I actually thinking right now? Is it negative? Is it positive? And if it's negative, why is it negative? You know, why do I believe that traffic sucks? You know, why do I believe that if I go here, I'm trying to think, just like the little negative things we tell ourselves, like people are bad, or you know, this person's trying to screw me over. You know, why is that thought going in my head? And then, you know, why do I think that person's trying to screw me over? What in the past, like, taught me to believe that? And so when you see it with people in weight loss, for example, I've had clients that yo-yo a lot. And then you can blame it on the system. But, I mean, not to put fitness down, but let's be honest. You know, you give someone a good program. Most programs are decent. A good exercise regimen, a good nutrition plan, they're going to lose weight. It's going to help. And so you can blame that person was yo-yoing and they didn't just have the right system. But I want to look farther than that. I want to see, hey, why are you yo-yoing? Why are you trying out different systems? Why did you lose 60 pounds last year and you're plus 80 this year? And you talk to those people and you start to hear these limiting beliefs from the past. For example, I was always the fat girl. Elementary school, I was just the fat girl. That's just who I am. And so what happens is they may not actively be telling themselves that right now, but when they have stress in their life, they will regress back to that belief system.
Interesting.
And so my favorite thing is we talk about like The Power of Habit. Have you read that book?
No, but
so it talks about the cues of your habits. Like what is cueing your habit? You see some type of stressful time will cue that belief system. So I try and get clients to really look at like when you are going to stress eat, where is that actually coming from? Like what is cueing you to stress eat right now? And you'll start to figure that it could just be the way they were brought up in their family, or different stressors that will happen that reminds them of a moment in the past. I mean, it's just little things like that. And so when you can get people to actually go and take an objective view, that's how they can identify those limiting beliefs and then also figure out where they're coming from.
So are there other commonalities of limiting beliefs that you've discovered in years of coaching people that like you could erase for people right now?
Man, okay, so my favorite one is the association between food and having a good time. So most people, for example, we do like different challenges to get people kickstarted, and like so during the challenge, I always hear this thing, well, my birthday's coming up, or well, actually, there's this family event coming up, or oh, it's summer, we have graduation coming up. I was like, every time in the year, there's some type of event coming up, but they associate that with having to eat poorly. And then so the biggest thing that we want to do is go back and look, okay, so where is that association coming from? Like, why do you think that? Because you're going to hang out with your family on this special occasion, whether that's Father's Day. Well, Father's Day is coming up, so it's Father's Day, so that means you have to go and eat bad. So we try and sit down and say, where did that come from? And usually that's just an upbringing of that's all their family used to do. They would just gather around and eat together.
Yeah.
And so then we can start talking about, well, how can we flip that script, right? Where does the actual fun come from when you're gathering with your family? And then they'll start to list off, okay, well, I had fun when I had this conversation with Uncle so-and-so, or I had fun when we played this game. I had fun when we did this thing, right? And then we start to realize that, okay, the fun's associated with all of those things. Put your focus on those things. The fun isn't associated with the meal you had together. The fun was associated with all of the other little things around it. So we want to just take that emphasis off of you have to eat large meals and quantities and sugar and stuff like that when you're going out on like a family event or just other events. And so that's one way you could limit that is finding those right cues and just switching it.
You're sort of like reassociating the motivation with something else. That's
Exactly.
Interesting. So I'm curious, for your clients that actually have made a permanent shift,
Yes.
what has happened in their mind?
Oh, that's the best.
Yeah.
So for example, we have, and she'll be okay with me talking about it. She loves the story. Jessica Garcia.
Shout out to Jessica Garcia.
Jessica Garcia. She's down like I think she's almost at 60, 70 pounds now, something like that. And so it was awesome. The first time I met her, I was like, hey, join our boot camp. She's like, nah, I'm not really into that. I don't really like people. She was really like, no, I effing hate people. And so just really negative mindset. And then you look at the environment. So she had a dispatching job. So, I mean, you're just sitting on the phone all day with negative events. Like people call in, it's like an emergency hotline. So like people call in when something negative is happening. So that's kind of her environment. And so, she's struggling. She's really negative. She doesn't like people. She hates her job. And you start to see this change. Everyone sees the weight loss change. I see the mental change.
Wow.
And we actually used to meet one-on-one every week for, I think it was like the first two or 3 months that she was with us. And we would just meet like this, just to have a conversation, to identify those issues and work on those. Wow. And then as those started getting better, the fitness started becoming easier. And next thing you know, we fast forward a year later, we're down 70 pounds, we're loving people. She has a new job with one of my mentors.
How about that?
I mean, it's so cool to see the shift, right? The shift is you take care of, and I think nutrition and fitness have a lot to do with it, because obviously if your nutrition sucks, your thinking sucks. You had someone on your podcast before talking about what was it? It was talking about the impact of like being dehydrated, the impact of not eating throughout the day. Like it hurts your body, right? And so if it's hurting your body and your mind, your social, like how you perceive people, things like that's gonna suck. And so that's the impact of, I think, that change in fitness on someone's life is like, yeah, you may look better naked, you may get a six-pack, but like your social environment and your personal relationships and all of those things, your outlook on life will be drastically different. You're a different person.
So it sounds like personal development really is core to making a shift, and that makes sense because the mind, it controls everything else. It's that's the thing that you have choice and control over.
Exactly.
So I'm curious, how else has personal development? What comes out of you is what puts into you. So what are some of the sources that you've learned that has been really helpful in helping you run your business, help create other change in people? Tell me about that.
When you say sources, do you mean like different types of books or
Different types of books, thought leaders that you go. How do you consume personal development?
Mostly audio. I'm an audio person and visual.
Okay.
You go. It's a gym, but you go to my office, you see whiteboards on like everything. Yeah. I've made like the Windows whiteboard. I learned better in that way. But I think the number one lesson with personal development, who says it is, I can't remember his name now. It will come to me. But awesome guy. Used to be a minister, and now he writes books and speaks.
T.D. Jakes?
No.
John Maxwell?
John Maxwell. There you go. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
John Maxwell, personal development. He talks about how you can only grow, and he raises it more financially, but like you can only grow as much as your personal development grows. Mm-hmm. And so I've taken that and kind of related to fitness, in that my member can only grow as much as they personally grow.
Yeah.
Or else they're just going to bounce back, not be here 3 months later, and then maybe come back another year, right? I think that's the problem with the fitness industry, is we have so much lack of consistency. But I think we have lack of consistency not because of the fitness program or anything like that, because of the individual's mindset.
Yeah.
So I think personal development plays a huge role on that. But different books. Tony Robbins. That was definitely one of the first guys that I got into when it came to personal development, and his belief with like neuroscience, and just how if you change someone's state, you can change their life ultimately. And so when I would do consults, sometimes like we would do little weird things. I'd have them like close their eyes, bounce up and down, just tell me their feet don't stink. Because for example, you're coming to me with all your struggles. Like you've been overweight for this long. You've tried. It just doesn't work. Like next thing you know, we're sitting there for 15 minutes, and all I'm hearing is just all this negative. Just this isn't working. This sucks. This my life. I look like this. My husband doesn't love me. All of these things. I'm like, the state you're in is not a state where we can promote change. Yeah. So I think state change has been a huge impact when it comes to fitness. And if you look at different companies that do so great, like Orange Theory, they promote a huge state change. The lights, the stuff on the screen. You come in there, it's like they're putting on a show. And so I try and learn from stuff like that and figure out, how can we take personal development and impact in changing people's states, their mindsets, so that they can get a better fitness outcome out of it.
It sounds like you focus not just on the exterior, but it's like a comprehensive. It sounds like it's more than a fitness coach. It's like you're changing people's lives, and I think a key thing that you mentioned is like you're slowly changing people's identities. You mentioned when people yo-yo, it's because I'm still the fat girl, right?
Yeah.
But if you're able to remove that limiting belief,
be whoever
then
you want.
Exactly. So that sounds like that's a big part of what you're doing.
And so we were actually talking about when we were walking up there. I asked you, do you believe that your personal struggles are what you're probably going to leave the most impact on when it comes to helping people? And can you share some of that with your story that you were telling me downstairs? The not being able to get that job, and then 30 tries later.
No. So my story is that when I graduated from college back in 2005, I was really cocky, I was really arrogant. I worked for the technology retailer CompUSA. I built a very successful career there. I was promoted 4 or 5 times. I ran one of the best tech shops in the company, all the metrics and everything like that. So I had 6 years of management experience, retail, training, certifications, and now a bachelor's degree. I thought that was going to be my red carpet to finding my dream job, right? It took me 8 months to find a job, and I was rejected 37 times in a row. And throughout that process, I really lost my identity. I didn't know who I was anymore, because all up until that point, I was the young, successful kid who was supposed to take over the world. But then I charged out into the marketplace, and it was like a humbling experience after humbling experience after humbling experience. But what was happening throughout the process of this constant rejection is I was learning how to get a job. I was learning how to make eye contact, how to shake hands, how to follow up, how to conduct myself in an interview. So finally, the job that I took, my first job, was a recruiting job. And that's been my corporate career for the past 11 years. So instead of trying to find a job for myself, I began a career where I was doing that, but now in the service of others.
I love it.
And I feel like that's what I'm doing with the podcast now, because I knew I was lost in my entrepreneurial journey, and now I'm helping other people find themselves through their own pathway to success. And by doing this, Josh, I'm discovering my own entrepreneurial identity.
I love it. I love it. And so that's kind of what I have noticed is that like usually what you struggle with. Now here's where we can go a little bit farther. I think your biggest sin is where you're probably going to have a big impact on the world. So you look at in the Bible. Is it Paul? Yeah, Paul. You talk about, this is a guy who used to like crucify Christians, go out. I mean, just kind of evil guy, right?
Yeah, totally.
And God's able to use him and his sin to actually help other people out. And so I think when you really start looking into it, it's not a fun conversation to have, but the things that you kind of suck at, or the things that we call it that dark side that you kind of have, that everyone has that dark side. There's that things that, usually they don't want to talk about to people or whatever it may be. I think you can actually take control over those things by figuring out how can I use this to actually help people, right? Like I struggle in this environment. You see in AA a lot, alcoholics. That's why AA is like it's such an awesome, I've actually, there's a book called The Imperfection of Spirituality, and it's kind of based off of AA, and I've used that with how we actually set up like our group structures. And how we communicate with people, but you see people using their weaknesses, right? Like an alcoholic in AA, we look at, they may have at first thought like, man, this is a sin that I just can't get over. But they use that to actually help other people out. The founders of AA, they use their sin or their misfortune to actually help who knows how many people now. So I think you can like figure out, okay, so where am I struggling at? And then how can I use that struggle to help someone else, right? You were struggling to get a job. You were struggling like you were telling me downstairs, you said you felt kind of like you were failing. But you use that to now you helped other people get jobs as a recruiter, and then now you're using it on this podcast. And so I think you can do that. And so for me, growing up, it was always trying to figure out like, who am I? Like, how can I remove all limits for myself so I can actually be what I want to be? And so I see that with fitness, right? When someone's coming to me because they want to lose 60 pounds, I don't see the 60 pounds. I see someone who wants to ultimately change their lives.
Yeah.
They want to be someone else. And so we can set them up for success and help them, not necessarily change people, right? Like you're gonna be you on, you're gonna be you. I think you always have like this natural part of you that's you, right? But you can change your life outcome, right? A lot of people I'm meeting just aren't happy with their life is. It's not, and that's why they're overweight. It's because they wake up, they get ready, they rush out, they go to work. Usually if we're going to go step by this, I wake up, I look at my phone, I look at Facebook or whatever social media channel is, or my email, then I rush to work. I'm doing this all day for work. Then I get home, I rush, I eat something, and then I kind of sit on the couch and I do it all over again. All right. And then so usually people that come to me with weight loss goals just aren't satisfied with where their life is. So we can just go there and start changing that aspect. You start to see the weight falls off really easy, and it's crazy. So yeah, I think it all starts. It starts in your mind. It's a brilliant thing. Yeah.
It's almost as if like the weight loss piece is a symptom of something bigger, and then you meet people at that, and then you help change everything else.
Yeah. Like my first question when I see someone who's struggling with their health is, why are you struggling with your health?
Yeah.
Like what caused that struggle? And sometimes it's just as simple as just bad habits. And then sometimes it's as complicated as in, like, this is just how I grew up. This is how I perceive myself. There's this book, Psycho-Cybernetics, I'll buy for my, like, if I have a member that I kind of think is struggling with that whole, like, well, I was a fat girl growing up. And so I'll buy them this book and ship it to them on Amazon. It's called Psycho-Cybernetics. Awesome book. Is written by he actually used to be I think he still is, but cosmetic surgeon, or he would do plastic surgery. There you go. And so he would realize with people, because he would do like burn victims, people with abnormalities from birth, and he would have two types of people. The person with the disability, he would fix it. They would look completely normal, and nothing would change their lives. They would still see themselves as having that disorder or whatever it might be.
Interesting.
Right? And so even though they look completely normal now because he fixed them, and then he would have the people where he would they weren't able to get help, but they got help on like how they view themselves, and they would have a complete radical change. And even though like whatever that symptom is, or if it was a burn victim, as long as they perceive themselves to be different, their belief system, their belief of who they are, that's what would change their lives. And so so I'll give my clients those type of resources, so that way, you can make that mental shift, and the next the fitness shift is a lot easier. Yeah.
So has there been one particular book that you have successfully given out that's given consistent results of making people change?
That's one of those books.
That's it?
Cybernetics.
Yeah.
Another book that so we're actually one of my goals actually we're working on right now. We just got the shelving for it and stuff. Is I want to do like and so hopefully by the time my members hear this, it will actually be in action, a like public library style thing in my gym. So like,
cool.
We'll have fitness and nutrition books in there, of course, but I also want to start sneaking in that personal development side of like, hey, you should try this book out. One book I love is called the Big Leap, and it talks about how we self-sabotage. We have this thermostat, because you see it, and it's funny because you see all this stuff with people with weight loss. You'll see someone with weight loss lose 10 pounds. And then for some reason they stop. They plateau. We call it a plateau. I call it self-sabotaging. Or they actually gain back weight. And you always wonder as a coach. Like as a coach, it's easier to do this. Well, they're just cheating. Yeah, that's probably true. But you're a coach. Like your job is to, why are we cheating? How do we stop? Like a coach is just a salesman. Like my job is to sell you and convince you to make this better change, to change yourself, right? So the problem with coaching though is if clients are doing those things, like they're cheating, they're drinking, they're doing things that are counterproductive, as coaches we tend to just say, well, that's just the client. Like stop doing that. but I think a real coach will look at, why are they doing that and how can I help them stop doing that? And then so I see that's why I love the big leap, because it talks about self-sabotaging. Usually we have this thermostat, and we see it in our relationships a lot, that, you could be having, things could be going perfect. Like you could be having the best night with your date or spouse, whatever it is, like everything could be perfect. And then for some reason you get into a fight. And then so it talks about how we have this thermostat of what we perceive as our happiness level. And so once we get past that happiness level, our body, like our mind kicks in. It's like something has to be wrong. Like what's wrong? How do we, like there's something's not right. You got to stop. We got to cool you back down. And then that's when you self-sabotage. That's that client that loses 10 pounds. And then that next weekend decides that they want to order midnight pizza and ice cream. And then for some reason. And so as a coach, I think it's our responsibility to figure out every single reason. Like it's always my fault if my client is self-sabotaging. Why am I not able to get to my client to show them the right way of doing things, right? And I don't know how true that is or not, but that's how I kind of look at it when it comes to things like that.
Wow. Anything else you think we should discuss about personal development when it comes to making long-lasting change? Or
I want to ask you. I mean, you've interviewed. I was going to say, man, I know. You're interviewing me, but I want to interview you.
Sure.
Because you've had a ton of different. Just great people on here. A ton of great people on here. You've had some good life experience. What has promoted you to continue to grow yourself personally, and then what promotes you to keep yourself in shape and things like that? What personal development kind of helps you out with that stuff?
I think there's a couple things. I think in the past maybe year and a half, I've discovered my purpose, and the purpose to me is kind of like your GPS or your North Star to living your best life.
Yeah.
And I have actually experimented with a lot of different entrepreneurial ventures since probably 2008. And it was all about just making money and achieving financial freedom. I've done everything from network marketing to internet business to real estate and doing all these things. And I made a little bit of money, but never felt fulfilled with any of them. And I was realizing that I was good at some things and bad at some other things. And to me, there was a process of self-discovery, of self-awareness of what are my true gifts and what are my talents, what am I good at, right? And a lot of it was done through introspection of feeling how I do when I do certain things, feedback from others, and then things that I really enjoy doing. But it was this intersection, this perfect intersection of what I was good at, what I like to do, and what helped other people, where this whole new thing of creativity came out. In less than a year, Josh, I became a sponsored podcaster, professionally represented actor, model, paid keynote speaker, and now I'm 2 months away from releasing my first book. Those are the most results I've ever created in less than 1 year. Why? I'm at the intersection of my purpose. And whenever I stand there, it's like I can do no wrong. It's like I don't have to wait to feel success because I'm there. Purpose is not something you achieve. It's something that you live out.
Yeah.
This conversation right now is purposeful for me because my purpose is to create, to communicate and share ideas of inspiration and value. And when I can do it with other people, that's even more awesome. And this podcast is becoming successful because it lives in the middle of something. Because I do this podcast because, number one, I love it. I'm also good at it. And I use it to promote my guest and also their lessons learned. And the better I do that, the more it helps my listeners. So you see, there's constant value creation and everyone wins. And this idea of congruence, of being full on, because I know what it's like. Oh my gosh, I don't want to knock network marketing out there. And I totally get, I totally get the financial freedom aspect. I've met some of my greatest friends in network marketing, but the purpose was good. I was trying to reach financial freedom, but the way I was doing it was never congruent. I liked the idea of financial freedom, but I hated the process of doing network marketing. I was not congruent, but this I feel congruent with.
Yeah, man, I wish this was on video. They could see my big ass smile over here. Sorry, I didn't know.
Do you resonate with that?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Got me like some chills going down.
Does that answer your question? Though? Yeah, no, because that's exactly it. You know what? Another gift I was given, being a recruiter and having helped thousands of people find jobs, is there really are so many people in corporate America living lives of quiet desperation, and I've helped 100 of them find jobs. You know what I mean? And I get it. And I get it. It's part of living in a wealthy society that there's lots of jobs.
Yeah.
But the thing about having a job sometimes is that it's a function. It's a box. You know what I mean? It's one part of an entire thing. Sometimes it limits your creativity.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes, I mean, you are ultimately dependent on this company. And something else I've known, especially having hired people, is that there really is no such thing as a safe, secure job. You have to take your financial freedom. You have to take your independence. You have to take your purpose and everything into your own hands. You have to take your education into your own hands.
Yeah, yeah. Like I truly believe that our economy screws us because it's fixed, and it's not fixed. Everyone will be like, yeah, the 1%. Blah, blah, blah. No, it's fixed to make sure you don't fail. That's what's wrong with it. It's fixed
to make sure you don't
fail. It's fixed to make sure that you can, if you want to work, you can find a job and you can make enough to live.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is you have a lot of people who get jobs so they can make enough to live.
Yeah.
How many people plan like when people are doing, I mean, because I saw this in my family growing up a lot. It's like when you're budgeting, like you're always like just making sure that, okay, this bill can be covered. I need this bill to be covered. My bills are met. I'm good. We're fixed to be able to meet our bills. And so it makes it easy to actually just rely on that. It makes it easy to say, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pay my bills.
Yeah.
All right. Whether that's, and the worst part about it is most people that live that type of lifestyle aren't coasting. They're working hard. They're stressed, right? Because they're always meeting their bills. And so, and if I do know we do have a homeless problem. Like, I mean, even in Plano, you have homeless people. Like, it's, so I definitely do know there are problems that need to be addressed in that area. But I think the biggest problem that needs to be addressed is, how do you not fall under that spell of that cycle of, okay, I can get a job to pay my bills. Because what happens in that cycle is, I think everything revolves around you and your family. There's nothing outside of that. And your passion, I've noticed, like, your passion is outside of you. Your passion is helping other people, whether it's coming and getting a job, using this podcast. Like, you're not doing this podcast so you can go sit down and listen to it 10 times after this. You're doing this podcast because you hope to inspire someone else. It's outside of you.
Exactly.
And so I think everyone's passion is outside of them. But when you get in that lull of, here's my job, it pays my bills, and this is what my life looks like.
Yeah.
You can't chase your passion because it's hard, right? It's just all in you. So yeah, I don't know. I always think about that. It's like, how can you get outside? And it's hard. It's not.
We're going to talk about some controversial stuff, but who cares, right?
Yeah.
Did you finish school or not? You went to UNT,
I did
right?
not finish school.
You did not. Okay.
I did not. I have like a semester left.
Do you not think that the school system primes you to get a job? Like, you know, I've had a lot of entrepreneurs on here that have taught at entrepreneurial schools, and a lot of them say that entrepreneurship programs are not good at the universities. But it's like, it's just the mass idea. Even my kids, they're like, oh, I'm going to go to college and then I'm going to go get a job. Where's that coming from?
Yeah.
It's just out there. You know what I mean? And, you know, I'm not knocking people with jobs. And I've met a lot of people who find so much purpose and everything in that. But it's still not uniquely you. And And I don't know. Do you think entrepreneurs are born or are they cultivated?
Oh, that's a good one. I think I have to say cultivated. I think it's like
Cultivated?
I think when you get the right piece of information
Yeah.
that vibes with you, I think you can change your life. I definitely think so. I think when you get the right, that's why when we were talking out there, I was talking about how important I think it is what you do, because it was that drive. I had about like 2-3 hours of driving a day. And then especially when I was like switch over doing independent training, I was driving to people's houses and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I was spending a lot of time in the car. And the thing that changed me was, well, I don't know why I've never really liked music, which is weird.
You never liked music?
I've never really liked music. It's
Yeah.
weird. So I would just listen to like audio tapes, podcasts, things like that growing up. And so that stuff, getting the right pieces of information were able to cultivate me and saying like, all right, I'm going to jump off the cliff and I'm going to do this. So I do think you can be cultivated. But I do think that you have to fight against your environment. Like
Yeah.
you talk about the school systems, like are we primed to just get a job? I don't remember once in college learning, and I went to business. I did business for 2 years, and then I did kinesiology. Even in kinesiology, like your outcome is to help people. But I don't remember like learning about helping people in college.
Yeah.
And so I think that kills your entrepreneurial drive, because at the end of the day, you're an entrepreneur because you have this idea that can help people. And so if you don't learn the importance of helping people growing up, you can't be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Right? You can be like you can be what you were talking about, like, well, I want it to be financially free, right? I want it to make money. So I tried entrepreneurial things to do those, and it didn't work because I don't think that's an entrepreneur. I think an entrepreneur is you have a vision that can help someone else, and right?
I'm saying that because you're blowing my mind. You know what I mean? It's just okay. So Patrick Escara, he's the founder of La Madeline.
Okay.
I had him on the
Yep,
podcast, right? And he said the key to life is not getting, the key to life is giving. And when I think about school, I always, my entire mindset was like, how can I get a job? How can I get a job? How can I get a job that's going to pay me money? How can I get a good lifestyle? How can I create a respectable career? It's not about what you can get, it's what you can give. Because the more effectively you give, you can get everything else that you want.
Yeah. I completely agree. I have.
That's not taught in school, man.
No, it's not. But it's taught in books. It's taught, and so that's why I was telling you.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's almost like what it is. It's like the people who it's meant to hit will search it.
Yes, you do.
They
have
will
to
search
out.
for it
Yeah.
outside of school, in books, through people, and maybe that's the price an entrepreneur needs to pay. Because there is no school for entrepreneurship necessarily. Because if you think about it, it's not a curriculum that you teach, because a lot of it is self-discovery of your own emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
And it usually becomes great manifest whenever it locks from within, because you're right. It's usually an idea or something has to break in your life to look for different things.
Yeah.
Because I was a corporate company man from 2005 to 2008 when I was working my job at Robert Half in the corporate America. My vision was to work my way up the corporate ladder, become executive and all this. And not until I got fired from that job was I forced to start looking for different ways to create an income and think about, what does it mean to live like a fulfilling life?
And we're back to that security aspect, right? When you are secure
Yeah.
in your job and you're paying your bills, right? I'm paying my bill, my car bill's paid, my light bill's paid, my children have food. Like, good, I'll stay here. And then you're never forced to have to go seek out creative ways to grow. Like the most growth time I've had, and I love when you talk about that power of a year, like how a lot, like your life progress change over a year, right? For us, it was kind of the same thing. I went from we were outside in the park. I had negative $600 in my bank account. I had a group of like 15 people doing a boot camp, and I went and signed a lease for a for a building because it was
we
got to
talk about that.
Yeah. So but the most growth I've ever made was when I was I'm transparent as hell. So I met my ex-wife now when I moved back to Dallas from Chicago, living a wild life, partying, things like that. You can imagine how I had a child. But we talk about belief systems, and so my belief system growing up was that swivel chair with God. That if I sin, God turns His back. So if I sin, God turns His back.
Okay, got it.
So that was a swivel chair. Like God's in a swivel chair. Every time I sin, He's going to turn around and not grace me or bless me or
That's
things
your
like
philosophy?
that.
You gained that from someone?
I gained that from growing up, like from church, family, things like that.
Yeah.
So that was just kind of, and that was a work for philosophy. Like I don't believe in that now, and I'm glad I don't. But that was my belief system. So my belief system was that I don't know. Are we allowed to say things like sex and stuff on here?
Sure.
Okay,
Whatever.
perfect. So my belief system: I have sex with someone.
Yeah.
I have a baby. If I don't get married, God turns his back, and my life is hell. So next thing you know, you're getting married with someone you don't really know, and then you start having these problems and things like that. So anyway, that led to a early divorce, and then me being blessed with I have my children half of the time. The only way I say that is just explain this story. But so when I didn't have my children, my home was my gym, right? So I would sleep there. I had a little cot back there because one of my coaches found out I was sleeping there, and so she brought this cot. And and so this is when we first moved in there. This is summer, I think, going into fall. So you got the cricket season. Like, we just have crickets everywhere in our gym that night. So I just remember sleeping with crickets.
The crickets, yeah.
But like, that was the most growth period of my life, because all I would do was stay up and learn. I would stay up and like read stuff about how to write better copy, or I would stay up and read things about how do I be a better person, how do I attack my visions, right? I would just and that's why I think the people, like, as entrepreneurs, you have to go through that struggle period, and you have to consider your personal development work. Like, your personal development is so work for me in my gym is obviously selling memberships, making sure everything's operating right. Like, that's what someone would view as work. I don't view that as work. I view that as those are like byproducts of things I have to do. My work is my personal development, because as that grows, all those other things are going to happen. And so I think what entrepreneurs is, if you can start to realize that your work is your ability to continue to learn and digest things. I mean, look at like Warren Buffett, like, dude's reading like a book a day. And like, so his work is like, if there was something in his business that like he had to cut out, whether it was maybe it's like a board meeting or something like that versus his reading time, I guarantee you he's going to cut the board meeting before he cuts his reading time.
Yeah.
And so I think when you go through those periods of like growth, that's when everything else starts to work. Yeah. If that makes sense. I kind of rambled there.
No, it does. It does. So let's kind of jump in a little bit more about the story of the gym. Like you have been, what were you doing before this?
Okay, so yeah, so like, let's just kind of go from high school. So my junior year of high school, my parents got laid off of both their jobs in Illinois, and they moved here to Dallas because the economy was better. So my junior and senior year, I was here in Dallas. Remember I told you about my hand-eye coordination is pretty poor. So football wasn't necessarily the best thing for me, but I got involved in powerlifting. And so that kind of started my fitness journey. And I started realizing that the only reason I was doing football was because I loved to work out.
Yeah.
And so that started my fitness journey. I became really passionate about that. But like I said, I've always had that like chip on my shoulder where I wanted to just be great growing up. So I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be a business lawyer, a corporate lawyer, whatever. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to go to business school. And so I left after I graduated in 2011. I went back to I went to college in a little small school in Aurora, Illinois, which is right next to Chicago. So I moved back, and like I was telling you, kind of just living a wild life. I was that student that could like never go to class but just go take the test
and do well.
Okay, yeah, and do well. Yeah. So I did that for 2 years as a business student. I just didn't like it. I don't know why I didn't like it. And then and I've always kind of grown up. I don't know if I've always put myself in hard situations, but anyways, I was really broke when I was there. So like, I'm living in a house with a bunch of people. I have like no money. So like, I remember I used to go donate blood or plasma.
How were you creating an income?
So I would donate plasma. That was one way.
That was your job.
I would donate plasma.
Yeah.
I worked behind the counter at Vitamin Shop.
Okay.
And then to pay for because that was like my big supplement time, but to pay for my workouts and supplements.
Yeah.
I was always a little entrepreneur. So like I had a business. I used to write papers for people. So I used to charge $10 a page, unless it was like a research assignment. Then it was like $15 a page. And I remember I had about $1,000 in cash, and I left it at my aunt's house because I was flying back home to Texas to see my family. And I remember my aunt thought I was dealing drugs. I was like, no, I'm just writing papers.
Wow. Okay, so that's a natural strength that you have, is communication, and
writing,
language.
things like that. Yeah. And then just figuring out ways to survive. So I did that. I used to buy back people's textbooks and then resell them. And so just like little things like that. So like that's how I was getting by, like just little creative things, but like nothing that like amounted to like anything great.
Yeah.
And then so I think it was.
But even then, there was already the thinking.
The thinking of how can you create?
Exactly.
Great. Like you can you can do pretty much whatever you want. You just have to create it.
Yeah.
And so I used to always like just get by like that. I used to always survive. But then it would always get like just squashed because, you know, I would party too much, or I would just I would always self-sabotage. And I think that's why I'm so interested in self-sabotaging, because I do it so much.
Yeah.
And so I would always do that. And then so I moved back here after 2 years of doing that. Had a really bad breakup, which again was my fault. I was self-sabotaging there. And I moved back here, and like I said, just kind of kept up with that wild life. Then I ended up finding out my daughter. And so at that time, I'm a personal trainer at 24 Hour Fitness, because I dropped out of business school and I just kept with the training. I was like, well, I love training people, so I'm going to keep training people. And you make decent money doing that. And so I was a personal trainer at 24, found out I was having my daughter. Kind of the most stressful time, right? You're like, oh crap, I have all this responsibility now. Like, I have to get it made. And then so what I decided to do was, okay, I'm going to quit my job. And I'm just going to jump ship and see what happens. And
didn't have a plan?
No, not really. I just knew I knew I wanted to own something. I knew I wanted to build something. Not
okay,
own
so
something,
you wanted
something.
to do your own. Okay,
I wanted
gotcha.
to build
Yeah.
something. And so, and I
Did you have savings?
No, none.
Who were you living with? Where did you stay?
So at that time, I had just moved out of an apartment. I convinced my parents to let me come live back with them.
There you go. Okay, that's
and so that was working. And then
was working.
But I would always find ways. I would always find a way to make money. Like,
Yeah.
I always to make sure we could survive. But yeah, so no, I didn't have anything. Everyone said, you got to save up money. You have to come up with a business plan. You have to do this. And I was like, no, I'm just going to prove that it works. And so I started doing independent training, because that was like the next thing I knew. Like, that was owning a job, or like being an owner. Like, I thought I was owning a business by being an independent trainer, which I quickly found out was not true.
Yeah.
Like, you working in your business is not owning a business. And so I quickly found out that, okay, no, that's not true. But that got by. Like, that helped me raise up some money. It helped me build some clients up and things like that. And then so I had taken, this is why I believe in investing in yourself, because this is when things changed for me. I took my last dollar, and I flew out to California for something called Fitness Business Summit. And it's just kind of like a marketing thing for like fitness entrepreneurs. And at this time, I'm an independent trainer, and I'm making pretty decent money, because you would have like business owners that pay like $1,500 a month for you to come to their location, train them, things like that. And so it's actually working out pretty well. And I get there, and the guy's talking about how, if you don't own a location, you can't scale. If you don't, if you're the one coaching, you can't scale. You don't own a business. You own a job. And like, I'm just like listening. So I was like, oh crap, I'm doing all of those things.
Yeah.
I was like, crap.
Yeah.
and then he's like, I'll teach you how to do it. You can get in my mastermind. It's $1,600 a month. And so I have my rent in my bank account. That's it. And I have a daughter, technically 2 daughters, because my wife at the time had a daughter of her own.
Yeah.
And I call her and I ask, I was like, hey, what if I did this? And then of course I got to know. But then fortunately she did call back, and this is why, I mean, her and I are great friends now, but this, she was like, you know, if you think it's okay, go ahead and do it. And so, I mean, literally took like the last dollar and put it towards this mastermind.
You have a high risk tolerance.
Oh, I love risk. I love risk.
Yeah.
And then I love risk a little bit too much, which is where I get into trouble. Yeah, anyway, so I did that, and then, but the risky part was that I said, okay, I'm done training. I'm done independent training. And that was how I was making all my money. So I literally said, okay, scrap that. I'm canceling all my clients. And then I went and started an outdoor boot camp. And then so, which you make a lot less money. It wasn't even like, it was like a 30-day challenge for like $97. And we were able to get like, I think 30-something people signed up for it. And off of those 30-something people, we were able to go ahead and raise enough money to get out of that park, get into a location less than 2 months later, 3 months later.
Wow.
And then start growing off of that.
And that's where it is today?
That's where it's at today. So we went from negative $600 in the bank to we just closed out last month over $40,000. And so it was
in the bank?
No, like not in the bank, like as what we did revenue.
Yeah,
so like we went from like we're negative in revenue to like last month, like revenue was, I think it was like plus 40. And like, so I want to continue to grow. Awesome. My goal is to get it to, and you know, I know my members will listen to this, so I just want to say this. It's not like just the financial part. It's just that if I know there's more revenue coming in, I know I'm helping more people.
Yeah,
so,
no, exactly.
That's kind of really the main thing. That's why I always kind of refer back to revenue, because it's the easiest way to know, am I actually helping people?
Yeah.
Because at least I hope if I'm not helping you, you wouldn't stay.
So how long have you been in business?
So I just started the independent training 3 years ago. Then a year after that, I cut that off, and then I started the outdoor boot camp. So actually, Renegade Bootcamps has existed for maybe about a year and some months.
Wow.
A year and some months.
In the form it is today.
Yeah, in the form it is today. So that's the cool part of this journey, is it's still so new. There's still so much like it's just that I was a little bit intimidated, because I'm looking at some of the people you interviewed before. I saw you you had a lunch date, I think, with someone who won an Emmy.
Oh yeah.
Andre,
yeah.
I was like, crap. I was like, dude, I haven't done any of those things yet. But I was like, I'm in that the birth process, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like you said, that year of growth, when you're at the intersection of your passion, you just booming, the growth started happening. And so I feel like I finally have reached that intersection of my passion, and I can start the building process. And so I don't know, I'm excited. I'm excited for the future, where it can go, because there's so much potential.
So as a business then, how is Renegade Bootcamps different than any other fitness solution?
Customer service. That's it. Customer service. Actually understanding that results don't matter. And I know that sounds crazy as a fitness gym. Results don't matter.
Explain that. That's kind of
a lot of gyms are so on the scale of, we have the best technology, we have the best progressions, we have the best training programs, we have the best all of this stuff. None of that stuff matters if you can't keep a client long term. I've had clients for 4 years, 5 years that are working out now at Renegade Bootcamps, right? If you can't keep a client engaged and loving the process for the rest of their life, you didn't do anything. All you did was you took someone, you made them look sexy in 12 weeks, and then about 5 years later, they're still 20 pounds overweight because they've regressed or they bounced back. So what makes a gym difference is when they get past all of those things, and they really understand that the number one way to change someone's life is to actually get involved with their life. It's to actually look at them from a human element and provide outstanding customer service. And then next thing you know, that person stays. Average attrition rate for a gym is I think maybe anywhere from 15 to 30%.
Yeah.
I will be surprised if I have maybe one member will send an email saying, hey, I'm sorry, but this month has to be my last month. And because we go all in on customers. So whether that's buying flowers for birthdays, whether that's just writing cards, or just expressing thank yous, from having a private Facebook group to a texting platform where we can always be in communication with our clients, just making that lifestyle change. And so when you look at it more from that aspect, it's hard, because fitness actually becomes second to customer service. And
interesting. That's very interesting.
Yeah. And so maybe my program won't beat, maybe my 12-week program won't beat someone else's 12-week program. Maybe their 12-week program might get better results, in that 12-week span. But I guarantee you, me having that client invested in their health for the rest of their life is going to create a better impact in that client's life than your 12-week program that has the best proven techniques and technology. And so I look at customer service first, and then we look at fitness.
First off, that's a really interesting business insight into the mind of the consumer, right?
Yeah.
What are they actually looking for? Results or the relationship? They want to be heard.
Yeah.
How do you scale? Because I know one of the things that you're passionate about talking about is building your culture, because you mentioned it yourself. You don't want to own a job. You want to own something. You want to own a business that scales. Yeah. How do you scale a service of customer service?
Customer service comes from your people first, your staff.
So hiring then, or finding the right people, or
provide great customer service to your number one customer. My number one customer is my coach. My number one customer is the person that I pay. And so there will be times, there's still times, because we're new in this, and I'm transparent. I write checks for my coaches, and I don't write a check for myself. I'll make sure I have enough left over to pay take care of my daughters, to take care of this. But customer service starts with your people, right? We do every Monday, we'll do an hour in personal development, and then we'll do training. I don't have to pay my coaches to do personal development. but I do because they're my number one customer. And them being bought into the vision, they provide the best customer service, not me. They provide better customer service than I do at times. And because my focus is obviously on like business and growth, their focus can be on that individual client in front of them.
Interesting.
And so, and you know when that works when you make mistakes. And so, for example, we've last week we had 2 5 a.m. no-shows from my coaches, which is usually pretty terrible. Usually you're getting a Yelp review. Usually you're getting some pissed off emails.
Yeah.
For some, our clients were coaching each other running around the building.
Really?
And their only concern was, is so-and-so okay?
Oh, wow.
That was it. So when you provide great customer service, you see it when you mess up. Because when you mess up, that customer is still there. They got your back. They're there because it's human relationships.
Yeah.
And so that's the same way I treat my staff. And I hate saying the word staff. We don't even say staff in there.
Yeah.
We don't say boss. We're not allowed to say that. We say team. And it's kind of confusing because when we say team, we're actually talking about the whole boot camp.
Yeah.
So we're not even just talking about like my actual staff. Like everyone's team. Like everyone that's involved with Renegade Bootcamps is a part of the team, whether you're paid or not paid, whatever it is. And so I think you can scale that by making sure that the people you hire are taken care of. And not taken care of necessarily financially, but taken care of that they know that their visions line up with your vision.
Yeah.
And then you grow together.
Wow. So what else in the time that you've been a business owner, like what's working, what has worked, and what hasn't?
Honestly, I mean, this may sound simple, but I think the number one thing if you're a business owner and you want to make it work, especially if you're a gym owner and you want to make it work, get into a mastermind group. Like get into a mastermind group. Get a coach. We always grow faster when I'm in some type of mastermind group. And like right now we currently are. And it's been amazing. and you'll learn faster. You get around other people that are like sitting in front of you, like you give me chills when you talk about your passion.
Oh, really?
And I'm just like, oh, gotta get out. I gotta go to work. But when you get around other people like that as an owner, you will start to get ideas. You'll grow. You'll want to grow a little bit faster, and you'll want to help your people out faster. So I think that like has been one of my number one things I've learned, and that I will always invest in. I think that's huge. What was the question again?
Yeah, was there anything else that, like, in terms of business, that any kind of advice? Because, I have a lot of other entrepreneurs, so I'm always curious about what are the principles that can be applied to different businesses.
So when you start, I believe focus is necessary. So I always, I would draw it out. I drew out for a buddy of mine the other day, and it really helped. But, like, this cup right here, like, that's me. And think of, like, an electron ring, right? You have, like, the what's in the middle? Like the electron ring, you have like the electrons floating around.
The nucleus?
Yeah, let's just say let's say nucleus right now. We have some scientists listening to this right now, like, man, what is wrong with them?
I'll edit in the right word later.
Edit in the right word. Yeah. The atom. But anyways, so you have these things around. I see what happens with most people is they try and invest in things that they don't have full control of when they first start. And when you're first starting off, I'm talking about like when you're first starting off, you're starting off kind of on your own. Like you don't have a lot of resources, kind of like us, right? The number one thing you can invest in is going to be yourself.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. Not your business, but yourself. So your personal development, right? Are you paying that $1,000 that it costs to go to California to actually sit in this conference and learn? Are you making those sacrifices? If you're not doing that, I think that's the first thing that's wrong. Then once you start doing that and you will see growth. I mean, if you invest in yourself, you're going to see growth. If you go to the gym and pump some iron every single day for a couple weeks, you're going to see some growth. It's just that's how it works. You invested in yourself. Now I'm talking about investing in your mind. And so you're going to see some growth. Then you take that growth and don't go all crazy. Now you invest in the next thing closest to you that you can fully control, your business. So then and right now I'm in that phase. Everything I get, I'm dumping back into my business. I'm dumping back into two things, myself and my business. Everything. There's never anything left over. That can be from hiring. That can be from figuring out new ways to grow, hiring a coach, more marketing, like whatever it may be. Like just invest in the things that you can control. And then the next phase, I believe, is then you start to take that, whatever you take the fruits of that, those investments, and then you start to invest in something on the next level outside of you, and then on the next level, and then maybe next thing you know, you're in real estate, you're in this, you're doing all these different things.
Yeah.
But I think when you look at like great people, they always started with themselves, and then they started with like their business, and then they started like creating these different sources. Where I see with a lot of young friends who are entrepreneurs, they start with, I want to do this, and I want to do that, and I want to do this, and I want to put money in this, and I want to do this network marketing on top of doing this network marketing, and then there's just too many things going on.
Yeah.
And their investments are just too everywhere. So I know it's a little controversial because I know a lot of people talk about you should always have like a bunch of multiple, you should have multiple sources of revenue, which I agree with to a degree, but not necessarily when you're just starting.
So I think the core to your business philosophy, I heard a few things, and maybe these might not necessarily be in the order, but I heard the importance of customer service.
Yep.
The importance of self-development, and focus.
Yes.
Like you mentioned, one of the books that you like is The One Thing.
Exactly.
Like
Yep.
focus. What's that lead domino? What's the one thing such that by doing, everything else becomes easier or unnecessary?
Exactly.
I think those are three really good core principles. So,
Yeah.
so Josh, close us out with obviously it's a gym, right?
Yes.
And customer service is first. It's very unique, your philosophy and approach, and obviously it's working because of your customer retention. And for the entrepreneur, that's important because of this idea of lifestyle customer value, right? So give us just a little bit on the exercise methodology that you guys kind of implement out here at Renegade.
Yeah. So exercise methodology. So I actually just hired a really, really smart guy. And so he's actually taken over all of our programming and stuff.
Oh, cool.
That's another business lesson I learned is like Henry Ford, just
hire people better than you,
better
like,
than
who
you,
play at
right?
what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, like I don't duck my head into exercise books that much anymore. So I shouldn't be the guy doing the exercise programming. But my members know that I always hire people who are great and that can handle that stuff. But I mean, the biggest thing right now is, so obviously we do, this is where we get a little controversial. There's not that much difference in exercise programming from gym to gym.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, like, I absolutely love Olympic lifting. I love CrossFit. But, like, CrossFit's still that same way. It's about, there's kind of, it's like the workout of the day, right? Like, you write up a cool workout, you do it. There's not, like, that much deliberate detail, especially with group training. There's not much that deliberate detail to like, this is going to be the program we follow, and it's going to be this phase during this month, this phase during the next month, things like that. I think maybe when you're doing like one-on-one training, then you can really get into that. You're training athletes, you can really get into that. But with general population, it doesn't necessarily work like that. And so I think making sure that you're focusing on weak spots. We always find the weak spots. Like, what are the weak spots of my clients? Where are injuries happening? And I look long term. So, like, what are the things that 6 months down the line are going to stop them from their fitness journey? And so a lot of that's going to be like posterior chain stuff, stuff that's going to prevent low back pain, knee stuff, knee pain, all of those things. So then we program that into our workouts. Like, okay, we always need these type of exercises in there because that's going to keep them safe. And then we just try and market it in a way that's fun. Like, for example, we're doing a booty bootcamp challenge, 6-week booty bootcamp challenge.
Yeah.
And so we started marketing that. In 2 days, we had, I think, almost 30-something signups, like just like that, like from a couple of emails.
Wow.
And but now the reason behind that is I need my members doing more work with barbells, with like straight leg deadlifts, RDLs, hamstring development, posterior chain development. I need them activating their lats a little bit more. So I could make a program called, hey, we're going to do posterior chain development, and I guarantee you we would not have had 32 signups. So it's about figuring out what your clients need, where are their weak spots, and then how can you wrap that in a package that is so fun and creative that they always want to do it.
Love it.
And I learned that lesson at some marketing event. I can't remember the name of this guy, but he was talking about, like, look at your best bands, your best artists. Usually they're not the best singers. Usually they're not the best guitar players. Usually they're not the best at what they do. They put on the best show. And so they'll help more people because they're actually thinking of the people.
Interesting.
Right? And so that's my belief system behind like programming and things like that. Like, it could be the perfect program, but if it's not fun, if my clients don't love it, if there's no show behind it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I love it.
Which is a little controversial because, I always get yelled at by I always get emails from people sometimes in my marketing, be like, hey, you got to be careful with the way you word that because, it might not be necessarily correct or, and stuff like that. I was like, dude, I don't I don't care. It's bringing people in my door and they're changing their lives. Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I don't care if that image or that wording of, the wording isn't completely correct or scientifically correct or things like that. Like it's starting the process of someone changing their life, and that wasn't doing that. And so I go more on how do we love up on people? How do we give a great show? And then ultimately the results. I mean, results happen. I don't speak about results that much, but you don't come in my gym and not get results.
Yeah. And I looked at your website and it's just testimonial after testimonial, before and afters. I mean, it's working. And if you can love on people, provide high customer service, create the results, and have a customer for life, I mean, and you're giving, that's good, man. You're doing good work, Josh. I love it, man. Well, Josh, how do people learn more about you, connect with you on social? I mean, check out your gym. Tell us all this stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So social media, I'm a little bit boring. I believe in focus. So I believe in mastering one thing before you go on to the next. So Facebook, facebook.com/RBC training. And you will find our Facebook page. That's where if you just go surf, just scroll through. Just go there and scroll through and you'll see the culture. You'll see the content. You'll even see the results and stuff like that. So that'll be the best way. Other way can be our website, Renegade Bootcamps, DFW.com. And those are probably the two best sources. And then you can always just hit me up on my business cell phone at 469-401-0588. Someone will always text you back.
Man, you gave away his cell phone number. And also, Josh, there was the nonprofit you wanted to call attention to.
Yes.
What do you want to talk
Please,
about?
let's talk about that.
Yeah.
If we could talk about that for a little bit. So Humanility. I was at my church when I was first getting started, and they actually started, they mentioned how they do how they handle their finances and their fundraising. So they talked about how for what it takes to build something here in America, 10% of those funds could build something overseas. And so this is actually a very big passion of mine and what I want to move towards creating. I want a philosophy like that with my gym. Every gym location we open up, we can open up some type of child community outreach overseas. And so kind of like Tom's shoes, right? Every shoe we can get a shoe, right? Yeah. And so I loved it. I mean, it sounds great. It's beautiful. It's awesome. But then I started thinking, I was like, that involves waiting. So I have to wait until I open up another location. I have to wait until I have cash flow to do something like that. And in my opinion, waiting is pretty much just dying. I'm just impatient.
Sure.
So we start figuring out, okay, so what is another way we can kind of do that right now? And then so that way I stumbled across Diane and Brian Thomas. They started this nonprofit called Humanility. And so what we started doing is saying, well, as we grow our membership, we're going to sponsor kids. And so right now we just actually took on 8 more. So we're up to 12 plus 8 is 20. So 20 sponsorships right now outside the gym, which is going to be pretty great. And so my goal is to use our gym to grow their sponsorships every single year. And so as we add on more members, we'll always add on more children. And then
that's awesome.
And then my goal is to use the business to I honestly believe that like you mentioned it. And earlier you said that giving is to give is to receive. I mean, like I think that's the number one way to get what you want in everyone's lives. So if my clients want a better life, I'm a bad coach. If I know that to get a better life, you have to give more. And I don't get my clients behind giving, then I'm not being a good coach.
Right. So
my goal is with our gyms is to get our clients behind the aspect of giving. So we do that. And so that's Humanility. You can go to humanility.org. And you can find a bunch of great information about them and just what they do in the Philippines for taking these beautiful children. I flew over there in April, and that was awesome.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful kids.
We got to talk about that offline. Yeah, man.
Yeah, it was amazing.
I'm Filipino, in case you have never seen my picture. Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's pretty cool. So that's something that we're really passionate about. And then also our mission of the months. Every single month we do some type of mission. So I believe in like community outreach and global outreach. And so I always my business to be involved in something like that. So yeah, those are kind of the biggest thing is go to humanility.org, learn more about that program. And I gave you my cell phone number already, so 469-401-0588. If you want to text me about how you can get involved with that, or just how you can use your vision and passion to help other people, then I would love to be a part of that and help you out.
Awesome. Yeah. And we'll make sure to plug everything else in the show notes so you can see everything and follow up with that at a later time.
And my phone number.
And his phone number also, yeah. Your cell phone number. Okay. Well, Josh, dude, this has been awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. The truth is, I still have I'd love to have you back on the show and talk about other different things.
Yeah.
But I think this is a great way for people to get to know your personality. You're doing such amazing things. And you mentioned kind of comparing your business to other people, but that's the thing. That's the beautiful thing where the rubber meets the road. The beginning of entrepreneurship, that's how it starts. And you're building everything on a great foundation. You're a good guy. You have a great business. You're creating results and you're giving. Dude, I'm just so honored to have you in the podcast, man.
Dude, I appreciate you, man. Making me blush over here.
Yeah. Well, everyone, thank you all for tuning in to another episode of the Pathways to Success podcast. Share this episode out. Subscribe to the podcast so you can hear future episodes, and tune in next week on the next episode of the Pathways to Success.